Hi, welcome back to Organizational Behavior. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 3, Job Attitudes. So attitudes are evaluative statements or judgments concerning objects, people, or events. They reflect how we feel about something. In other words, saying, I like my job reflects your attitude towards work. So attitudes really a descriptive of how you're feeling about anything, really. But here we're going to focus primarily on the workplace. So we're going to look at the attitudes that make up three components. The cognitive component, and that is the belief in the way things are. The affective component is more critical part of the attitude as it calls upon emotions or feelings. And then the behavioral component describes the intent to behave in a certain way towards someone or something. Now, these three components work together to aid in our understanding of the complexity of an attitude. So, cognitive component equals evaluation. For example, my superior gave a promotion to a coworker who deserves it less than I did. My superior is unfair. That would be a cognitive component. An affective component might be, I dislike my supervisor. Now, a behavioral component in relationship to this, I'm looking for other work. I've complained about my supervisor to anyone who will listen. All the above components affect and get affected by negative attitudes towards the superior or supervisor. So this is how they kind of work together to create a negative attitude towards a superior. Okay. Now, research have supported the idea that attitudes predict future behavior. When attitudes and behaviors don't line up, individuals will experience cognitive dissonance. This incongruity is uncomfortable, and individuals will seek to reduce the dissonance to find consistency. So people are willing to live with some discomfort, but the degree to which this is true depends on the importance of the elements, how much influence the individual has on the situation and the rewards available. So we know that there is a relationship between attitudes and behavior. Attitudes affect behavior. Your attitude will help you to determine what you're going to do. Now, this cognitive dissonance is when there's an incompatibility that you might perceive between two or more attitudes or behaviors and attitudes. So generally, we want consistency. We don't like there to be this dissonance, this distance between our attitudes and behaviors. We want it to make sense as a natural feeling. Okay, so if we're talking about summarizing the relationship between attitudes and behaviors, we have to talk about moderating variables. So the attitude's importance, their correspondence to the behavior, accessibility, persistence of social pressures, whether a person has a direct experience with an attitude. So some variables moderate the relationship between the attitude you have and the behavior you express. So these variables include the importance of the attitude to the person, the correspondence of the attitude towards the behavior, and the accessibility of the attitude, the presence of social pressures on behavior, and the direct experience that you might have with the attitude. These mitigating variables will affect whether or not and to what degree attitudes can predict behavior. So the attitude-behavior relationship is likely to be stronger if an attitude refers to something with which we have a personal experience. To go a little deeper into this, important attitudes are going to reflect our fundamental values, our self-interest, or it's going to help us identify with other individuals or groups that we value. So these attitudes tend to show a strong relationship to how we're going to behave. Now, the discrepancies between attitudes and behaviors can occur when there's social pressure to behave in a certain way. This is going to moderate how you behave. So in certain social settings, it's inappropriate to yell. It might be inappropriate to make certain jokes. I mean, these are things that, you might feel like you want to do something, but socially you shouldn't. Now, remember too that attitudes that you have and you frequently express are going to form like a muscle or a memory that you can easily access, and chances are that you're going to express these behaviors again. So if you study somebody's behaviors and you understand their attitudes, they're likely to keep expressing and repeating them. So this attitude behavior relationship is much stronger if an attitude refers to something we have direct experience with, that we've done before. So this is something that we just have to understand, that we have attitudes and behaviors, but there are other influences that are going to moderate our behavior. So we're not just like animals running around with our just acting out our behaviors and our instincts constantly with really no regard for how they're going to affect other people. We really do think, hopefully we stop and think, we can't easily control our attitudes, but we can more easily control our behaviors, and we can stop, some negative behavior, and that's correlated to some negative attitudes. It's easier to stop behavior than the attitude. Now, when we're talking more about work, we want to refer to it now as a job attitude. So when we're talking about a job attitude, this is going to be, I think we all have a basic understanding of this. And there's been a lot of research in the area as far as job attitude and behaviors, and how organizations, strongly can predict how an employee is going to react, or how, they're going to perform based on the attitude that they express inside the organization. So organizational identification has become a hot topic with the gig economy that we talked about in chapters 1 and 2. Contract and freelance workers are going to engage in shorter term agreements with multiple organizations who may have come and go over time. So it may seem like these gig workers would probably develop a little identification towards their organizations. However, a lot of the studies recently suggest that might not be the case. So organizational identification is basically how an employee identifies themselves with the similar characteristics that identify the organization they work for. So it was thought that, gig workers, since they may be working for 3 or 4 companies at the same time, that they wouldn't easily be able to have organizational identification, but studies have shown that they do. And it's just basically that it's a sense that you see the company's values and see the company's attitudes, and you're going to help. It's going to help make up how you define yourself as an employee of that company, with hopefully similar characteristics that define the organization and the organization's behavior. Okay, so when we talk about job satisfaction, I think this is a little bit easier to understand for most people. Job satisfaction is basically the feeling we have about our job. So when we look at our job and all its characteristics and its demands, at the end of the day, how satisfied do we feel? Meaning that when we're done with a week's worth of work, do we have a sense that we are complete, that this job suits us and what we're producing, and this job is productive, and overall we feel just generally either positive or negative about the job. But the more positive about the job you have, the higher job satisfaction you're more likely to have. Now, job satisfaction is interesting because a good component of job satisfaction, of course, is the work, but also is the people you work with. So if you have a lot of friends at work and you might not particularly love the work, but you have a good time at work and you have a lot of friends at work, that could lead to job satisfaction. So it's not always 100% about the job tasks you perform. It can be the job environment too, leading to job satisfaction. Now, job involvement is the degree to which a person identifies with a job, the activity they participate in, and it considers how you connect the job, description of your job and your performance in your job to your self-worth. So if you work in a job that you're good at, or you work in a job that you have a lot of experience and became good at, you're typically going to feel that you contribute a great deal, and that's going to contribute to your self-worth. So having a job that challenges you, that you can grow, and having a job that results in a positive output, meaning that you're helping the company design new products, you're helping the company sell products, or maybe you're a teacher and you're helping to educate people, or maybe you're working for a nonprofit and you're helping to house people. It's, you're looking at what are the results of your job, and your involvement in the job is producing positive results for the economy or society, and that is going to help contribute to your self-worth. Now, the psychological empowerment is the belief in the degree of influence that your job is going to hold, and the job meaningfulness and the autonomy of your job. So these are different things that can help you. Let me just say the concept in a different way, that this empowerment, these are beliefs in the degree at which you're going to influence your work environment, your the strength of your competencies, the meaningfulness of your job. Meaning, do you find that your job is significant and meaningful for you, as far as that you believe in your job and that what you're doing is critical and important to the organization. So the more empowered you feel as an employee, the more having autonomy, sort of set your own schedule, what you're working on, decide what you're working on, maybe have people that you're working with that are reporting to you. This gives you this feeling of empowerment, like you're a big part of the company and your contributions matter, and the company would be worse off without you. These three factors are going to be help you to identify your overall, the results of your job in general. Now, organizational commitment. So this is how an employee is going to identify with an organization. So an employee with a strong organizational commitment identifies with their organization's, its goals, its wishes. It remains to be a member. It's emotionally attached to the organization and its belief and its values, and they just have a real commitment. So somebody who not only loves their job but also loves the company they work for, and they identify with the particular goals that this company has set, and they want to stay with the organization. They feel a good benefit for working with this organization. They feel like the organization cares about them. The organization is doing good in the world. So employees who are committed to the organization are less likely to engage in work withdrawal, which you might call quiet quitting, is a new term for that. Or even if they are dissatisfied because they have a sense, a strong sense of loyalty to the organization, they still will be committed in the job, even if they have some dissatisfaction with their tasks. So this is a difficult thing for companies to really foster, and it really happens through time. So when companies have their employees' backs, when they give them good raises, when they give them good bonuses, when they give them good opportunities for growth, when they show support for them, when there's trouble in their life, and when a family member dies, when they get sick, or when they're going through other tough times, the organization's commitment to the employee, if the organization is committed to the employee will then in turn generally identify and be committed to the organization. But many times organizations expect this instant commitment from employees to their organization, and a lot of times they don't realize that this has to be earned. And it's not something that comes quickly, but it does go away very quickly. So if you believe in your organization and you worked really hard for your organization, you help build them up and get to a particular strong point, and they turn around and do something like cut your hours or cut your pay or cut your responsibility, basically stabbing you in the back, you're going to quickly lose your organizational commitment. And this sometimes can be very short-sighted. I once had a friend here at the university that was very wealthy, and they're going to retire. And in their will, they had put the university that they were going to leave, a significant amount of money to the university. And the way they were treated on that last semester before they left, almost like they were thrown away like a bag of garbage by the university. That's the way that they felt. I'm not saying that the university was at fault here, but the way they felt that they didn't really have a good send off. They weren't really appreciated. And he told me he changed his will and decided not to give that money to the school because he really didn't feel like there was an organizational commitment to him after he left, or the last couple of weeks before he left his position. So, I mean, it's important where, companies really have to think closely on what they are doing, or with their new policies and how that's going to affect the workers, because they work so hard to build this organizational commitment. To lose it over something really kind of insignificant, like they weren't really, say they didn't have a going away party, or they didn't have an email sent out supporting, one of their initiatives, or even the fact that maybe someone's promoted and everybody else gets an email saying, congratulations on your promotion, this person's being promoted, and this is all the great things about them. And then, maybe you get promoted and they never send an email out about it. So that's something that could break your organizational commitment. Now, perceived organizational support. This is important because this is how employees believe that their organization values their contribution and cares about their well-being. So this is a tricky thing because this is an employee's perception. So what the company's actually doing and what the company perceives can be two different things. But we're trying to measure the degree at which the employee believes the organization is going to value their contributions and cares about their overall well-being. Some companies may actually care quite a bit, but they're not great at expressing it, leaving the employee to feel like they're not appreciated or supported. And some companies may have a lot of talk about supporting the employees and trying to publicize this or promote this, but in the end, their actions say differently. So for an employee to really, the way that they develop their perception of the organizational support is through the organization's actions, not so much through their words. And a lot of managers in the organizations forget that. So, hopefully people perceive that organizations are going to be supportive, that they're treated fairly, that they are valued as an organization member, that they have a high quality relationship with the organization as far as their involvement in their job, their coworkers, their support, as far as does the organization get them involved in decision making, or are the managers and supervisors and leaders of the company supportive and trained in being supportive? And what we call a power distance. So power distance is an interesting thing, and it does make up a strong component of this perceived organizational support. So the power distance is the degree at which people in a country accept that power in institutions and organizations is distributed unequally. So what do I mean by that? So of course, not everybody's going to be of equal power inside of a company. So there are going to be managers and directors and vice presidents and supervisors. So in a low power distance countries, typically, believe it or not, the United States, people are more likely to view work as an exchange than a moral obligation. So employees in these countries look for reasons to feel supported by the organization. It may appear that U.S. organizations are obligating to be supportive. And there was a study where hundreds of thousands of U.S. employers who represented, or tracked the employees over 30 years indicated that the perceived organizational support has been steadily increasing over time. So the high power distance countries, more like China, where employees perceive, their perceptions are not as deeply based on demonstrations of fairness, support, and encouragement. So it is sort of a difficult concept to understand, but when we're talking about perceived organizational support, something that ties to it or it's important is, what is the perspective of the employees in the country, because each country is different because the cultures are different. What's their perception of the power distance? So the degree to which people in the country accept that power institutions, organizations are distributed unequally. So if they feel like the power is distributed unequally, they're feeling that it's not that big of a problem. Like in the U.S., we don't feel that. We feel that the power is appropriately distributed, and people in power have a responsibility and can be held accountable if they make mistakes. So anybody can be fired, and anybody can be let go. No one's really protected, and that helps to reduce the power distance. In other countries, the power distance between the managers and the employees is more vast, where the managers could be more inappropriate or abusive and still be protected by the corporation. They won't really be, their behavior won't be corrected quite so quickly or swiftly. So it's kind of what that means. It's a little bit hard of a concept sometimes. Now, this is a little bit easier. Employee engagement. So when we're talking about employee engagement, the individuals involved with satisfaction and with enthusiasm for their work. So if you have a high employee engagement, you have a high involvement in your work and in the company, you're overall very satisfied, and your enthusiasm for the work is strong. So engaged employees are more passionate about their work, and that leads to more productivity, more innovation, more profits. So employee engagement is something that goes a little bit beyond, a job satisfaction. You might be satisfied with your jobs, but are you plugged in to your organization? So not only do you feel satisfied for your job, but do you have a high amount of involvement in the company, commitment to the company, and enthusiasm for the overall work that you're doing? And of course, the deeper connection you have with the company, the deeper belief that you have what you're doing in your work is good, then that's going to be what the company's really shooting for. They want strong employee engagement. Now, disengaged employees, they're people who have quietly quit, they're checked out, they're putting their time and energy in, but they're not putting a significant, overwhelming amount of energy or attention to their work. But they're putting their time in, but just they're not enthusiastic about it. So what leads someone, the company's goal here is to have people engaged. So when people are not engaged, what we would say, I guess, disengaged, the organization is going to lose money. So just imagine that if you're in a company and you have a situation when you join a company and everything's great and things are working out, then suddenly you feel like you're being treated unfairly. Suddenly you feel like you're being overly criticized for your work. Suddenly you don't feel appreciated. Or maybe you could even be situations where you're being bullied, where you're being discounted and not validated. This could lead to this low engagement state where you're just like, okay, you made it clear you don't want me involved. You made it clear you don't like my input. So they kind of just take a step back and disconnect, disengage, and just sort of quietly quit. And this is, generally going to reduce the output that this employee can produce greatly if they get into that mindset. And it's really hard to bring them back to be an engaged employee once they have that mindset. Now, with the gig economy, um, these are workers, Uber, DoorDash, um, people who are working as contractors that aren't a full-time employee and are working through these new digital opportunities. Um, so they might be more influenced by the stability of the work, the compensation of the work, the characteristics of the assignment. So for gig workers, a lot of what a big advantage is they're sort of their own boss. They set their own hours. They have a lot more commitment because they're doing everything pretty much themselves. So the company provides them an opportunity, and how much they want to make out of it is up to them. And I mean, this gig economy of these types of jobs, they were similar jobs in the past. If you were an Avon representative or a Tupperware representative, there were jobs where you had a lot more independence and you were more of a contractor. So the gig economy isn't completely new, but it is something that what is, challenging. There are some managers getting involved with these new companies that never worked with a employment body where everybody's contractors and no one's really coming into an office, and there's no, could be a real different animal to deal with as far as, understanding these employees and their job attitudes. So here's a question. Are these job attitudes really all that distinct? So the answer, quite simply, is no. These attitudes are very related. So there is some distinction, but there's a lot of overlap that, could cause confusion. So there is a high degree of overlap between different job attitudes. So for example, if a worker has a high job satisfaction, they may tend to be more engaged and show a stronger commitment to the organization. So researchers are trying to find ways to measure the different attitudes in order to get their distinctiveness and what contributes to someone who's going to be have a higher job satisfaction and be more engaged and more committed to the organization. So this is an interesting thing to look at, as far as the research in this area. Other factors may include, people, just their basic personalities, their psychological dispositions. So engagement, it's hard to measure human engagement because it's something that is hard to really put limits around. I mean, all people are just so different. There can be a lot of commonalities, but different people are going to have different attitudes and they're going to react differently depending on the situation. And depending on the person. So it's what makes this area of study a little bit kind of difficult to really get conclusive answers on what managers should be doing that's going to lead to the best outcomes. So it is an interesting area to study. So, people feel that their work is central to their being, so that we would say they have a high job involvement, and they identify strongly with their organizations, which is a high organizational identification. It's probable that that they like their job. They have a high job satisfaction. So people who think of organization, if you think your organization is supportive and you feel committed to it, this strong organizational commitment, of course, the evidence is going to suggest these attitudes are highly related to each other. So some say that they kind of build off each other. So you're not going to get to that job satisfaction unless you have a job engagement and a commitment to the organization. So they're all sort of interrelated, I guess you would say. Now, okay, so let's look at the worst jobs for job satisfaction. So this is based on physical demands, work environment, income stress, and hiring outlook. So these would be considered the worst jobs as far as how they scored in job satisfaction. So if you look over these, I mean, I don't know I don't really know much about this study or how exactly it came about, but it seems like if you're a newspaper reporter, a logging worker, broadcaster, disc jockey, enlisted military, correctional officer, retail salesperson, advertising salesperson, taxi driver, nuclear decontamination technician, you're not going to have a high job satisfaction, according to the study. And it also looks like your pay isn't terribly great as well. It'd be interesting to see, I would also be interested to know what jobs have a high job satisfaction. And I think that, these rely on surveys, and research goes out and surveys people and see what they think and feel, and, try to bring back overall. But the truth is, there might be plenty of people in these jobs who have a very high job satisfaction. The majority certainly don't, but that doesn't mean that some people can absolutely love their job in some of those professions. So job satisfaction, this is a feeling about, you evaluate all the characteristics of your job, and you come up, basically a simple question. Does your job satisfy you? Yes or no? And to the degree at which it satisfies you is another story, but job satisfaction is really, if you don't have job satisfaction, you should be actively trying to change your job inside the company to get to the point where you're more satisfied, or look to change your job to a different company if you don't have job satisfaction. Because without job satisfaction, your job is just going to be miserable. And if you want to measure job satisfaction, I think in the past we looked at a single global rating, and we looked at, maybe we summarized different aspects or facets of jobs. So, a single global rating approach might be a response to questions, all things considered, how satisfied are you with your job? And then you might have, not satisfied, somewhat satisfied, very satisfied, that type of scale. And the second approach, you're going to summarize the different aspects of the job, a little bit more sophisticated. So with key elements of the job, the nature of the work, the supervision, the pay, the promotion opportunities, your relationships with coworkers. And like I had said before, that's a big part of it. So if you like your coworkers, generally you're going to like your job more. So if you picture a job that you really like the work, but everybody you work with is an idiot and a jerk, and it's just terrible people you work with, it's going to make the job horrible, even though you like the work. And that's why sometimes changing companies is a smart idea. So you figure, okay, I like this work. I don't like this group of people right here. It's a real negative group of people. It's a real toxic culture. And you could just change jobs and get into a better culture with a better group of people. So you'll have, not only like the work you're doing, but then you also drive some of your job satisfaction from the organization and the people within the organization. So how satisfied are people in their jobs? So employees in the United States and most developed countries are generally satisfied with their jobs. So that's an interesting thing, where the United States is not number one in overall job satisfaction, but we're certainly in the top 20. Now, so things that are going to affect how satisfied you are, of course, economic conditions. If you can't get by, if you can't live on your salary, you're not going to be, your job satisfaction will probably suffer. And so there's a lot of different, when we talk about, the facets of the work, we're going to talk about the work itself, what you're actually doing, how you're getting paid, the amount of pay you receive, promotions. Have you been promoted? Is there a promotion track? Supervision. How are your supervisors treating you? How is the company organized with your supervisors? Your coworkers. How do you get along with your coworkers? Are you friends with them? Do you go out after work? Do you talk about your lives? So overall, job satisfaction is sort of a compilation of those facets. And in the countries, with some of the countries with the higher job satisfaction, actually, I'm just getting ahead of myself here. Here are the facets we were talking about before, that I had mentioned as part of the job satisfaction research here that I had just mentioned before. And here are the countries. So Netherlands, Switzerland, Canada, Germany, Australia, Spain, United Kingdom, France, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Italy, then the United States. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we're 12th. We're just ahead of Mexico. But still, if you're looking at, the United States is 85% what we'd say satisfied, and the top is 90, close to 94%. How much of a real difference is that? So let's just look at global job, the top 20 um, job satisfaction levels. And so Netherlands and Switzerland, these typically have a high level of job satisfaction, and coincidentally, they also have a high level of pay. Especially Switzerland is a very high paid country. Um, so the percentage of job satisfaction, of course, it's a 0 to 100% scale, and the graph is formatted in the way that if it's 100%, then everything is perfect, and nothing's always perfect. So that's why no country is going to score 100%. Also, a part of this could be culture. Sometimes, you ever hear those studies where the happiest country in the world is Denmark, or the happiest country in the world is Finland? So there are some cultures in some countries where they don't complain, that they just, will express everything's great, I'm very happy. That doesn't mean exactly that they mean it. So if you ever travel to these countries, and I've traveled to Denmark quite a number of times, and I've been to Sweden a couple of times, and believe me, the people there are no more happier than we are. They just aren't up to complain as much, or from my experiences with these people, they don't really complain much. They're not ones to really bitch and complain about their jobs, their government, their neighbors. They sort of put up with it and feel okay about it. So I don't think the overall level of happiness is that different between a lot of the advanced economy countries, but I think the people are different, and their culture is different, and how they express themselves and what's acceptable to say. I think usually in the United States, we don't have the highest rating of happiness. Here, we have a culture in many parts of the United States where we're free to express, and often will express more so what we don't like than what we do like. So that might lead us to feel like we're more unhappy than we really are. So I'm just saying that these studies are also a big component, which make the study a little less valid, is that there's different cultural perceptions and cultural expressions baked inside that doesn't make them really easily comparable 100%. Okay, so let's talk about the main causes of job satisfaction. So, job conditions. Of course, if you have a very nice office and you have a very nice desk, and you have good social interactions with other employees, and other employees are pleasant and well educated and knowledgeable about their jobs, your supervisors treat you well, you have good job conditions. So this is going to help improve your overall feeling of satisfaction and well-being, because you feel like you're coming to a nice warm office with a nice private, you have your own private office and a desk and maybe a couple of chairs or a couch, and you're treated with respect. And this is definitely going to, for anybody, make their job conditions, pretty nice. Now, personality and individual differences. So people have, people are different. So how they feel about their inner worth may be true perspective, maybe an inaccurate perspective. How they feel about their basic competencies and their satisfaction, and their, how they will write out their core evaluations. This is kind of difficult. This is personality. People are so different in their reactions, their expressions, their feelings, their beliefs, that, it can be distortive when we're trying to figure out overall job satisfaction. Now, because personality and individual differences are going to play a role in how satisfied you are with your job, meaning that two people could have identical conditions, but one person is more satisfied for the other. And it might be the fact that previous jobs, they didn't have these great conditions, or they didn't have such great coworkers. So they're really appreciative when they actually get those conditions, and their job satisfaction goes up a great deal than somebody who's a little bit jaded and always had good job environment. But by and large, a lot of the research does support, if you have a positive core self evaluations, you believe in your inner worth and basic competencies, then you're going to be more satisfied with your job than people who have are less than that. Now, pay is also a big influence. If you don't feel like you're getting paid appropriately, if you don't feel like you're making the same compensation as other people who are doing the same job in the same office you work in, this is definitely going to affect your job satisfaction. Now, it's not the number one or most important element, but pay is certainly, if you feel it's unfair, you're definitely going to take a toll on your satisfaction. When you feel it's fair, or maybe you're overpaid, then it's going to be a positive influence on your overall satisfaction. So here's a chart: relationship between average pay in job satisfaction in that job. So if we look at this chart, it's going to show the relationship between average pay for job and average level of job satisfaction. So here is the pay down here, and here is the percentage of job satisfaction. So you can see there is not much of a relationship. Money does not motivate people as much as you might think it is. And as we'll talk about this more in motivations in later chapters. So it's not necessarily what makes us happy. So money, it's a funny thing that money is, you might be happy with a raise or happy with getting a job and making more money, but that wears off so fast, so it's not always, as you can see from the scale, people who make a lot of money aren't generally more satisfied than people make less money. And I think I read a study where they were saying that once you make over 75,000, the amount of joy you get or satisfaction you get from additional money above 75 is much less. So once you're sort of working your way up to that 75,000, it does help quite a bit with your job satisfaction. And after that, more money really isn't a solution to someone who's not satisfied with their job. Only in special cases. So job performance. So the idea is that if you're a happy worker, have a high job satisfaction, you'll be more productive. And that's why companies aren't being nice to employees because that's the right thing to do. Companies are being nice to employees and trying to make people satisfied with their jobs and committed to the organization because it leads to more profits. It leads to more productive workers and more innovative workers and more profits for the company. So just, it's sort of like companies figured out a long time ago that don't hassle customers when they come back to return things. So it used to be very confrontational. You try to return something, they question you, and they look at the product, they treat you like a thief, and you just get overall, people would be like, well, screw this store, I'm never coming back. Especially if their return wasn't honored. And that's why companies that one day just woke up and said, you know what? It's not worth losing all these customers over, a $10 item. Just let them return it. Don't question them. Even if there's no receipt, just let them return it. We'll have a happy customer and they'll come back and we'll make more than enough money back on them that whatever we're losing on the cost of this return. And that's sort of what companies learn too. If you want more profits, you want more productive workers, more workers innovative and going to share their ideas and have higher productivity, you need to have a happier workforce. So companies are trying to have happier workforces and create environments for happier workforces because it's more profitable for them. Not so much they, generally are doing that out of the goodness of their corporate hearts. It's just that, this is a clearer path to profits. So OCB, you may remember, is organizational citizenship behavior. So people who are more satisfied with their jobs are more likely to engage and be part of the positive organizational, be a productive and positive organizational citizen. And their behaviors will be more conducive to what the organization wants, because the organization wants you to be happy and they want you to feel like you're valued, and that it will motivate you to work harder and appreciate your job and hopefully lead to more profits. Customer satisfaction. So satisfied employees increase customer satisfaction and loyalty. Okay, so this is, if you go to a store and you're treated with a smiley face, a friendly person, for example, Trader Joe's encourages their cashiers to ask how you're doing. Did you find everything that you needed? How's, maybe a little chit chat, how are you enjoying this nice weather? You have any vacation plans? So you might find that this is a little unusual because most supermarkets, the cashiers barely talk to you. They'll just tell you maybe how much you owe, but there's really no engagement there. So Trader Joe's learned that, if you have happy employees and they can, express their positive attitudes and their friendly behavior to customers and treat their customers with respect and give this, hopefully have an engaging personality, that the customers are going to realize, oh, this is a fun place to go, and everybody's having fun. The cashiers are friendly, and the employees are getting on well together. I don't mind coming here. It has a good vibe, they might say. So the more satisfied your employees are, that's naturally going to be absorbed or witnessed by the customers who interact with your employees. So when you call up and they're nice and pleasant and helpful, that's going to make you want to go back. For example, if you go to Trader Joe's and you say, do you have this certain item? They'll stop what they're doing, put down their box or or whatever they're working on, and they'll walk you over to the section of the store and say, here it is right here. Or if it's not there, let me go in the back and actually look for it. This is something that rarely done in a traditional supermarket. They might just say, oh, aisle 12, and then you're on your own. And aisle 12 is huge, so not much help at all. I've been in supermarkets is so terrible. I've actually stepped in to help customers. Like, oh no, it's actually in the middle of aisle 6 is where they keep it next to, whatever. Because the employees working there they don't really know. They're just giving you any answer because the turnover is a high turnover because of low job satisfaction. Then life's satisfaction. So if there's a positive correlation between how well satisfied you are with your life, and this is going to bleed. The more you are satisfied with your life, the easier you become satisfied with your job. So there is a correlation between, and sometimes a job helps you to appreciate your life more, meaning that the job gives you decent benefits, health care for your family, a good salary, and then basically this leads to you feeling, I have a good life. I'm pretty much well taken care of, and that's going to hopefully transition to you appreciating your job more, So there's definitely research has shown there is a correlation between those two. Oops, let's see. Sorry, fast forward there a little bit. And I think you could all understand this, that, if I'm overall happy with my life and I have good attitudes and positive attitudes, that's going to spill over to how I approach my job and how I approach my coworkers and customers. So, generally that's something that I guess if you're on it, if you're doing an interview or if you're ever being interviewed, if you're not smiling, if you're not look like you're enjoying yourself during the interview, if you don't come off as a pleasant person during the interview, you're not getting the job unless you have some really good skills they're desperate to get, and they'll look past the fact that you have no personality. That's why it's really important on job interviews that you engage with the person. And oftentimes if I'm on in the past when I was in the job, I would look around the person's desk. Usually you get interviewed in the person's office, and I'd be looking around the desk and I'd see, maybe there was a picture of them with their sailboat or a picture of them camping, and, sometimes try to strike up some commonalities you might have. It helps, because you definitely want to see someone's doing pretty well in their life before you bring them into your organization. Now, responses to dissatisfaction. So this is an interesting little graph here. So what happens when employees dislike their jobs? That's my cat. If you hear a meowing, they, when you're working from home, like I'm working from home making this recording, your pets often want to be involved, and that's sometimes something will come up. We'll talk about in this course too, is work from home and the new work from home issues, and how some people just feel more satisfied with their job if they have the ability to be able to work from home some days of the week, if not all the days of the week. Okay, getting back to this chart here. So the framework that we're looking at is helpful for understanding the consequences of when someone's dissatisfied. So the exhibit illustrates employees' 4 responses when they're dissatisfied with their job. So there are 2 dimensions: constructive, destructive, and active passive. So if we look at the exit response, so exit, this is what we call the exit response. So direct behaviors towards leaving the organization, including looking for a new position or resigning. So this is basically whatever, you're dissatisfied enough that you're taking action now and you're looking for a new position, thinking about resigning. Maybe you're looking for a job while you're at work. I mean, this is a pretty serious destructive behavior. It's going to disconnect you from the current corporation. And generally, companies like long-term employees because they save the company a lot of money, because they don't have to training someone takes a lot of time and effort, a lot of money. Hiring someone new is costly, and generally new people get paid more than established people. So they generally, if you're a good employee, they want to keep you. So this is not a great response. This is not great for the organization. If you're going to exit, it could be costly. Now, voice. So the voice response, this includes activity and constructively attempting to improve the condition. Suggesting improvements, discussing problems with supervisors, undertaking actions that would help resolve the main issues. So this is more constructive. You're vocalizing, yes, I'm not happy about this. This is making me not like my job. And then hopefully your whatever you're unhappy about, the management can alleviate or take care or make it better some way. Okay. Now let's look at the passive ones. Loyalty. So the loyalty response means you're optimistic, but you're waiting for, you're dissatisfied, but you have a loyalty to the company. You like working there, and you're going to wait for conditions to improve. So this might be, you might defend the organization. You might have a trust the organization is going to eventually fix this and get it right. Now, a negative side would be a negative response, or that could be a more neglect. So it's allowing conditions to worsen or get, things to get progressively worse, where this might include you kind of like lose the desire to work there. So you could be late a lot, or you're calling in sick a lot, you're putting in less effort, you might be making more errors. You just basically give up, and now you're coasting to see how long it takes before they actually fire you. And that's why, when dissatisfied employees really can make a lot of mistakes, they can cost the company a lot of money too. So if the company could identify when employees are dissatisfied and help to turn it around, this is something companies should be focusing on a good deal about, communicating to their managers and supervisors on how to do this. Okay, counterproductive work behaviors. So actions that actively damage the organization include stealing, behaving aggressively towards coworkers, being late or absent. So when someone's dissatisfied, they sometimes act it out. They take it out on the organization. So they may be a negative force in the office. Just one of these people who are spreading rumors or gossip or just negativity. These people who they might get so dissatisfied that they feel they can justify stealing. The company owes me, is what they'll say. Being aggressive with coworkers and just being, you don't feel good about yourself. You're not feeling well, and people naturally take that out on other people near them or around them. Absenteeism is a big problem as far as companies. If you're missing work or it's going to be costly for the company. It's going to really slow down their productivity. Now, if there's a chronic amount of low job satisfaction, this could be witnessed by a high turnover. So if people are just, if management's not putting 2 and 2 together and they're not making the job something valuable, and people just keep coming and going, management isn't getting the, not getting the point of what's happening here. So it's this counterproductive work environment. And again, like I had said before, that term quiet quitting, where people just kind of give up, and their behavior starts reflecting it in the workplace, and these employees withdraw. They are going to do less. They're going to, they're going to almost challenging the management to fire them, or they just do enough to keep their jobs, but sow the seeds of dissatisfaction. And many, it's just like an infection in the company, and they can spread their negativity to other people and their frustrations, and just by talking negatively about the company and things of that nature. So managers really need to take steps to identify this, correct it, and they could do this by better communication with employees, and also just looking around. Where do they see a problem in the workplace? Where does some employees are just not fitting in, or not fulfilled, or what could they do to help adjust people's attitudes, or little things. It's not a pizza party. Pizza party is not going to solve this problem. They really have to. Employees need to feel employees need to feel like they're valuable, and their work matters, and their contributions matter, and if they've done stuff to really help the company in the past, that needs to be recognized. And sometimes management's just not up to the task of doing that, and the contagion of this counterproductive work, sort of spreads around. As people see a few people doing nothing or not contributing much, then that's the norm in the company, and that's sort of what they're going to take on, those aspects. Other major job attitudes. So if we talk of the major job attitudes: job satisfaction, involvement, organizational commitment, perceived organizational support, and employee engagement. Remember that an employee's job satisfaction level is the single best predictor of behavior. So employee satisfaction is really important. It's the one aspect of an attitude that ties most closely to their overall performance. So companies that have a better attunement to the job satisfaction levels of the employees they have, it will be able to, if they could recognize a problem with the job satisfaction, hopefully they can change it to improve the performance, reduce the turnover, reduce the absenteeism, and hopefully bring people out of their, if they're withdrawn or burnt out, helping them to find their way back, to be more committed to the organization and to be more satisfied with their job. So employers need to pay attention to job satisfaction more than anything else, because it's really going to be what's going to lead to a happier workforce, to a more productive workforce, and a more profitable company overall. So measure employee attitudes objectively and at regular intervals to determine how employees are reacting to their work. Well, basically, this isn't just do it once a year and move on. This is something where you need to check in with your employees on a more consistent basis. And there's multiple ways of doing that. Just paying attention to what they say, how they act, what they do, how they dress. Are they late? Are they absent? Their overall conversations with other people. Just keeping an ear to how they're behaving, as well as doing surveys and other types of feedback. Because the goal is to raise employee satisfaction. So sometimes the perfect fit isn't always there between the employee's work, their interests, and the job. So a few tweaks can help, but sometimes the person's just never going to be satisfied with the job. And it's impossible to create work that's going to be challenging and interesting to some individuals. And that's when you need to either promote them or fire them or somehow move them out to somewhere that they're going to be happier and be able to contribute more. And high pay alone is not going to make people satisfied. So how does that work? Okay. If you're doing a job you hate, you really despise the job. It's just not you. You don't have the skill set for it. Every moment of the day is agonizing. I used to say I had this one job where I didn't like, and I said if I had one day left on the world, with just one day left, I'd work here at this company because one day feels like a month. That's how torturous the job was. Um, and no matter how much they paid me, and I was well paid and well compensated, I still left the job behind for half my salary just so I could get some job satisfaction and feel good about my work and have some sort of quality of life. So pay alone is not going to make an unsatisfied person satisfied unless 100% of their problem was pay all along. And typically it's usually not that. So the better job the management can do to check in with their employees and help evaluate how the employee is fitting in and make adjustments to their position, their work, it may be even a matter of fact you see they're not getting along with a particular group, switching them out to another division or another office, or just managers just have to constantly be checking with their employees. And then employees not always able to verbally request what they need. Sometimes managers have to be mind readers and be really good observants and intuitive understanding of what their employees would need to make for them to be more satisfied with their job. Okay, so that's the chapter for this week. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I look forward to talking to you next time on chapter 4. Thanks. Goodbye.